It's all about the story. News Talk 660 KFAR.
You've got it on Patriots Lament right here on KFAR. This is Local Talk Radio. I am Steve Floyd, the host of the Besser Breakfast Show and the Problem Corner during the week here on KFAR. And I'm here basically to help moderate and facilitate the discussion. However, I am not a moderate, nor do I pretend to be. Joining me in the studio, we've got Dave Giesel from the Campaign for Liberty joining us as a special guest today. We've got Matt Want next to him, and on the far end, we've got Josh Bennett from Bighorn Enterprises. And gentlemen, we've got all of our phone lines on hold. So are you ready to go to the phones?
Nah.
Okay.
I got to hear Mr. Davies call Mr. Want here, and he was lumped in with the ideologues with Michael Dukes and Natalie Howard, which I thought was pretty interesting. And good for him. But
he's in good company.
Mr. Davies was so worried about Michael Dukes and being forced, needing these people to get out because they're obviously standing in the way of progress or progressivism or communism. Why didn't he run against Michael Dukes? What was he afraid of there? I mean, he's the one that called Dukes out. Dukes is an ideologue. We need to have voices on there that cancel these people out. Well, why didn't you run against them?
Can I throw
against the easy one?
Can I throw a question out on that one too?
Sure.
So you have these people out there who I won't name, but they know who they are, who think they understand how borough politics and the election cycle works, which is that unions and this massive nameless blob of liberals controls this town. And so I would ask them a question. You have an election where John Davies gets elected by more than half the vote. But at the same time, Michael Dukes gets elected and Prop 2 gets voted down. So explain to me who this blob of, union liberal scum or whatever who runs the borough election is. And why did they vote for Michael Dukes and vote against Prop 2 when they voted for John Davies en masse? It makes no sense.
Right, especially because if you look at the numbers, some of them had to have voted for all three.
Yeah, right,
they
exactly.
They had to have voted for all three.
Yep.
There is a group that must have voted for Davies, Dukes, and no on Prop 2. I mean, statistically, it's impossible that it didn't happen.
Right. So to all the the theorists out there who think they got the local political game figured out,
actually not a few. It had to have been a couple thousand.
Right.
There had to have been a couple thousand that
they don't exist, Josh.
Oh.
All right.
Pigments
again.
458 Talk is the number we go to the phones. Good morning, caller. Thanks for your patience. Who's this?
This Alan.
Alan, go ahead.
Hey, talking about challenging the system. Let me get your guys' opinion on this. Through our challenging laws that the state institutes. Now, if a person wants to challenge a law or try to change a law, his options are to, lobby a legislature, get a bill introduced, and let it go through that system. If he doesn't feel like it was given, fair representation at the legislative level, he can go to court, but it costs him money to go to the court. Now, as a criminal, you get charged with a criminal offense, you get appointed a state attorney, and the state pays for your criminal defense. Why doesn't the state allow citizens to challenge the law in the court system and have the state pay for it?
Technically, that's what jury nullification is supposed to be about, isn't it, Alan? If you don't like a law, don't obey it, and go to court and get your fellow citizens to throw the law out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you gotta hang it out there first.
You gotta be the criminal first, and then are you challenging the law, or are you getting charged with what's in the books already?
Well, the problem, I guess, with your comparison is that you state criminals, okay, and it's alleged criminals.
Alleged criminals.
That's why you are afforded by the state representations because you are alleged.
I want to allege that a law is unconstitutional.
Right, but that's not a position of innocence or guilt, and so that's where the difference lies.
But I know that's the difference, but why is the state paying for one and not the other?
Because there would be as many people that you disagree with on the other side spending state money to challenge different laws as there are people on your side that would be. You see what I'm saying?
I know there's a great expense to it, but that's one of the hurdles or one of the detours that the state relies on is they can't have just citizens challenging them on their laws because it costs them money. But if there's grounds for it, say you win, you go to court, you spend $20,000, $30,000, $60,000, and you prove to them that their law was unconstitutional. Is there any compensation for that?
No, but the state doesn't. The state doesn't want you to challenge their rule.
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, exactly.
They have the upper hand, and they can make a law through the legislature system that's unconstitutional, and anybody that wants to challenge it's got to come in their pockets to do it.
They're not going to pass a law then pay you to find the law unconstitutional. I mean, that's what.
Well, the premise of statism itself is that the state has a monopoly on law and a monopoly on enforcement. That was one of the unique things about the Republican structure that the founders came up with, was that there was not a monopoly of law in the state's hands as initially intended. I mean, it took very little time for it to devolve into that. But that's the point. I mean, if the state has a law, they presume that it's right and just, and you questioning it is not a fair trial. You questioning it is you being subversive. So of course they're not going to. They're not going to presume that their law is neither good nor bad.
But the state is not a third party entity. Any laws brought forward are brought forward by people that were elected into power, and so if it's unfortunately in some cases majority rules, and so if you get a majority that either allows those people to remain in power or allows those types of rules to be written, then it ultimately falls back to the people. I mean, the state is not a third-party system.
Throwing a yellow flag. Here's something that you said earlier today, Matt, about the state. Who is the state? Either the state is some kind of a third party coming in and enforcing itself, or it is all of us. It can't be both. And the problem is that it is, like you're just saying here on the one side, when it comes to enforcing laws, you're saying, no, it's all of us. But when it comes to the distribution of our joint property, you are painting the state as basically a separate entity.
Yeah, he's resting his belief on social contract theory, which is that we all agree to some non-written social contract that we never signed that makes us a member of a body politic, and through that social contract we control the state, and the state agrees to abide by our decisions and vice versa. The only problem is a contract, that Matt as a business owner no doubt understands this, requires both parties to understand the contract and both parties to voluntarily agree to the contract.
They have to be willing signatories for it to be a valid contract.
That's right. And if someone is a signatory under duress, right, and that's brought before a court, then the contract is invalid. Or if the signature was forged, then the contract's invalid. Or if there is no actual legal proof that a contract was ever signed, then the contract is invalid.
Isn't that really what the Declaration of Independence was all about?
Well, yeah, and some people signed that, right? There are some people who signed the Constitution also, right? But none of them are alive today.
Does that mean anybody that doesn't sign the Constitution doesn't have to abide by it?
It raises a very interesting question if you're going to discuss the Constitution as a contract. Because certainly the people who swear an oath to uphold it don't abide by it, right?
Well, but like, okay, to get back to this issue with the state, and you said, it's a contract, and we have, if we didn't sign but since we elect representatives, I mean, there's always going to be laws one person agrees with and another one doesn't. I mean, so how do you pacify both sides?
Well, that's a different question. I mean, we're just talking. That's a different question.
It's a good question.
These are these are the problems we run into. I mean,
right. But we're not looking at okay. So there's problems in the world and people don't agree.
Okay,
but that's true. That's true no matter what. That's true if you're in a fascist dictatorship and a democracy and whatever. What I'm questioning is the fundamental assumption that we live in a contractual, voluntary society based on social contract. I say that social contract is bunk, and it's not a contract in any legal sense of the word.
But you sign, you go to the state, you sign up, or you apply for a voter registration card.
I don't vote.
Well, okay.
So how am I bound by the people who you elect?
You should vote.
Why should I vote? Why am I bound by the people you elect? What if I voted for a guy who didn't get elected? Am I bound by the guy who got elected?
Because if you don't agree with the system, instead of just what do you do to change it, instead of just saying I don't have to follow those rules?
Right. Well, in fact, I do have to follow those rules, or I get locked in a cage.
I know, but you're saying that you shouldn't. You're saying that you shouldn't have to.
I'm saying that the system, in my opinion, is immoral because it's force. It's somebody telling somebody else to do something, not out of justice or a real contract, but simply out of force. And I don't believe that more people getting involved in a system that's based on force, I don't think that escalating violence is the way to solve social problems, which is what mass political involvement is all about. It's escalating the threat of violence against the minority.
I want to insert something here really quick. Dave, you've been making some very salient points for Matt. Matt, you've been asking some very, very good questions. I'm noticing your hat right now, Dave, which I'm not sure I noticed before. It says, what, Mises? Mises.org. Mises.org. That's from von Mises?
Yeah, Ludwig von Mises.
And he advocated an awful lot of the positions that you're espousing today. Am I right? And this is just as kind of a side point where people can go and hear more about what Dave is talking about. Matt, do you have a similar place where you can go to tell people about the social contract theory?
No, it's not.
Yes, you do.
No,
the public schools.
Oh,
I'm just saying that this is where you got your idea about the social contract. That is what is taught in the public schools. What Dave is espousing, you have to go and look for.
Okay, but he talks about the Constitution and the Republic and democracy and things like that. And so, in a democratic republic, we elect a representative. What I was getting at is you get a state voter card. You go, you vote. That's your signing the contract, because that's the person you have decided you want to go and represent you and go and make the decisions in the state. Okay, if they do a bad job, I decide on somebody else. Since it's democratic, okay, I'm going to have to live with the guy that even if I didn't vote for him, I'm going to have to live with him, but so is everybody else. And so, I mean, I guess I just don't see the level of forcefulness that he seems to feel is in. I mean, like when I leave here, I'm not worried about any guns pointed at me.
Yet.
It's a question, but it's a question of what are they legally entitled to do.
Josh,
and the question is, if you resist, right? Resist.
I'm going to turn off your mic, Dad.
Don't pay your tax.
Dave, I'm going to turn off your mic. Josh, you were trying to say something. Like 3 times, you opened your mouth like you're going to say something, and Dave spoke instead.
That's right. He does.
Go for it.
All right, Alan.
Let me throw this in there.
Alan, go ahead.
This is a little simpler. You're talking about contracts and freedoms. The state requires you to have a driver's license, or the nation requires you to have a driver's license.
Well, a picture ID, not a driver's license.
No, it's a driver's license.
You said yourself, if you choose to drive, right?
Well, you have the right.
It's a right.
It's no travel.
No, except if you choose to drive, that's a privilege, not a right, according to Matt.
Well, according to Matt, that's where he was indoctrinated at.
Oh.
But you have the right to travel. Now we've made it indoctrinated people to say that's a privilege to travel, and driving an automobile is a privilege. But if you don't sign that license, you still have to abide by all the laws. But do you need the license? You don't agree with all the laws.